Hey guys, welcome to another Unity tutorial today, and this is going to be the fourth installment of the C# beginner series. And today we're going to be looking at creating your own functions, or where your own functions or methods would be used. Now, more often than not, if you're doing something, you might be, as we've learned if you've watched the previous videos, if you're using if statements and conditional statements. So if you might have a certain amount of health left, you might then eventually have 0 health, so that means you might die. So you might write your own function, so there's not so much content in the update function. You might want to manage your code by writing new method. So I'll give you an example of this. What we'll do is we'll right click in Unity, and we'll start by creating a C# script. And what I'm going to call this is, I'm going to call this one functions for the ease of this sake. Now I'm going to open that up in MonoDevelop. Now once that's there, what I'm going to do is I will start by deleting the starting methods that it gives us. And if I look on the previous episode, we had a conditional statement. So we were looking at score and what score was equal to, and we did some things with that. Now I'll give you an example of how we can use a method in this sort of thing. So if we start by writing a public integer health, so this is going to store our health that we'll give to the player. Now we can write void update, so we're doing something in the update method, so this will be done every frame. Now we could say that if health is ever less than or equal to 0, then we can do something in here. We might do 10 different things in here. So we might want to split it up nicely and write our own method. So then what we can do here is start by, we want to decide what our method is going to be called. So we could call it death. So we'll write death, two brackets after each other, and I have a semicolon. Now what we'll then need to do is, in between the first sort of set of curly brackets below the update function, so you can see that those 2 curly brackets encapsulate the whole update method. Now we can write void death, just as we'd written it up there, add 2 brackets afterwards, then 2 curly brackets below again, and you can see that then the syntax highlighting knows that it's a part of it. So from there, say you've got a few things in your update method and you want to just keep it nice and neat, we could have as many as we want. Say we had another if statement which said else if health is ever greater than or equal to 50, let's say we've picked up lots of health, then we could say, I don't know, this is just an example, we could make another method called God mode, and then under here we can have another method called God mode, 2 brackets, and then we can have 2 curly brackets below again. And you can see here that we'll manage it in a way, and we can have, 10 lines of code here, nicely managed, without it being in the update function. So it just depends what you're trying to do, and easily in any other place, if in God mode I need to, for some reason, call death, I can just write the same as I would, and it would as soon as God mode is run, so say here, else if the health is greater than or equal to 50, it will run or call God mode, so it will shoot down here, go to God mode, and then God mode is telling me, oh, I need to now do the method death, and it will run whatever's in death. Now, like I said before, if you need to call a particular function or method from another script, you can do that. But one of the things that you do need to do, if you want to be able to do that within C#, you need to make sure that it's a public void, because if you don't have the public at the beginning, it'll be classed as private, and private means it's just private to this script, so it won't be accessible outside of this script. If you make sure that's public, you will be able to access it outside of this script. So in our conditional script, we could say that if we hit the checkpoint, then we can actually call this function. Okay, so let's say that we do want to access this function from another script. What we can do is I will just write a debug line in here, so we'll be able to see it in the reporter at the bottom. So we'll say I am here. So we'll just close that up, and so when we expect death to be executed, it will say I am here down at the bottom. Now what we can do is I can test this in Unity. So what we could do is I could add the functions script here, and health is 0 because we've not given it. So the update function will say, oh, we need to call the death method when the game runs. So when the game runs, you can see that health was 0, and it is finding it is executing that we've done death. Now, like I said, you might want to be able to access it from another script and just call this function once. So what we can do is, in our conditional script, or whatever script you might have, we can write a public variable, and we can write functions, which is the name of our script, which we can see up here, and then we can name this other script and put a semicolon. So now it's saying that we've got a public variable of other script, which we're going to look for functions here. Now let's say that in here, if the score is equal to 50 and if there's a checkpoint, what we'll do is we'll get rid of this debug log line, and then we'll say other script dot get component, and then what we want is 2 angled brackets, then 2 brackets after that, and then inside the get component angled brackets we want to say what the script that we're looking for. So we're looking for functions, then we'll say dot, and we'll look for whatever new function that we're after. So then we can type in death, make sure it's got a semicolon, so you can see that there, the other script, we're looking for a component, we're looking for the script, which is functions, and then what we're going to do is we're going to call death, and we expect that when score is equal to 50, and if we've got a checkpoint, we'll be able to execute that code. Now what we can do is that in this function I will make sure that I will take away the health, so it doesn't do it when we don't want to. So in fact I will delete all this from the update function, and now we can see that we've only got death and god mode, and they'll never be executed until you tell them to. Now we'll go back in. I will remove I am here from the console just so that it doesn't confuse you. I'll put the conditional in there, and now it's saying that other script, and it's looking for whatever the other script is on. This is helpful if you've got it on a different game object than what it actually lives on. So I can add my whatever game object that it lives on. So it lives on, it's this one, and you could simply do it by saying that you could just say get component without the other script reference, but this is just an example of how to do it. So you drag what object that script is on. We needed to have a checkpoint, and we needed to make sure the score was 50. Well, in fact, what we'll do is we'll make sure the score is 0, so we expect the function not to be called in the other script. So you can see that currently that's running that the score is 0. Now if I've got a checkpoint and now I set the score to 50, you can see that it's now saying that I am here. So it's always running the function or method from the other script. So it's just a very simple way to make sure, and if I get rid of the public on the death, and I now make sure that score is equal to 50 as soon as we start, it's going to complain, and it's going to tell me that it's inaccessible due to its protection level, and that means that it's protected just to this script. So as long as we've got a public, we'll be ready to go. So that's just a really nice way to organize and manage and sometimes just be able to call between other scripts, and you can do that as many times as you need to. So hopefully this maybe ironed some things out and helped you get to the next step of being able to write things for games. So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Cheers.